And I was raised with a feeling of love on my street and from my grandparents. And so the different generations that we have here today, we remember what it was like one day when we had neighbors and we all knew each other, and everyone could help raise the children and things like that. And that was yesterday. And as we go forward, we see that is dissipating a bit. And so caring together to provide an environment that is safe and loving for our children is the paramount reason why we're here today. So thank you for Mack McCarter. Thank you for coming to listen to him. And here's the man with the vision. Thank you.
I was born and reared here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the only thing that we're trying to do is we're only trying to change the whole world. And I look at these children and I think, I don't know how many laps I've got left, Jimmy, but it's a lot less than when I started. I realize that. And the last thing that I want to do, y'all, with these little ones is to hand them the world the way it is right now. That's the last thing that I want to have happen, period. Because what we have to hand them is the prospects are really not encouraging. But my teacher used to say that the greatest heresy is to make small what God intended to make large. And what I've thought about and what I've reflected on are the friendships and the relationships that I had growing up in a city that I have a love for that I honestly cannot express. I love this place. And the astonishing thing is we've got the best people, we've got the smartest folks, and we've got folks that can literally, once we put our hand to the plow, make a difference. Now, what difference does it make in the whole world with all of the dysfunction that we've got, that we're sitting out in a rather wonderful place with great scenery and enjoying one another and have a safe place for our children? How in the world can this literally change a world that is completely swamped with dysfunction? How can that happen? Well, let me share two things real quick. One is, I used to think it can't happen. The best we could do is try to do the best we can do, and then, after us comes the deluge. That we were fighting an uphill fight, and it was a holding action, and we really couldn't win. We couldn't change the whole world from Shreveport, Louisiana. And I tuned in one night about 10 years ago to a show on the Discovery Channel, and I got there about 3 minutes early because I was going to watch a show about dinosaurs, and the whole screen was filled with ants. They were just boiling all over each other. And I was about to change the channel. We men can watch 17 channels at once, and I was about to go surfing on the channel, and the announcer said something that froze my thumb. And I listened and I watched. And at the end of 3 minutes, I did something I'd never done before. I gave them, I called up the 800 number and gave them my Visa card number. I've never done that. And ordered a video that was an hour-long video, and I'd only seen the last 3 minutes. So I went in and told my wife, I said, Judy, I just ordered a video, and gave her my Visa card. She said, you did what? She said, what's the name of the video? I said, it's called The Ultimate Guide to Ants. She said, you did what? And it took about 6 weeks to get that video shipped to me, and I paid for it every day of my life for that time. And so what did the announcer say that froze me and made me do something I'd never done before? He said this: ants have been living in successful communities and societies for millions of years. Now that beats us. If you look at the human race, we literally have never constructed a society that gets better and better and better and better. All the societies, the large societies we've constructed, have risen and fallen. That's been our history in the human race. And I refuse to accept that as our destiny, that we can change this thing. And then they did an experiment with these ants. The ants were boiling all over each other because the ants had been put on a flat table. There was nothing on it but grains of sand and a few ant eggs. And they couldn't put the sand together to make a secure dwelling for their ant eggs. And then they did something astonishing. They had another table, and on the other table it looked like a dirt dauber had made something that looked like a sea. And they ran a straw from one table where the ants were over to the table where there was this dirt dauber sea. And one ant made its way rather tentatively across, and then it felt with its tentacles every single millimeter of space, and then it repeated the process of that sea. And then that ant did something astonishing. It went back and bodily picked up another ant. And that other ant let it. It just got on. It didn't say, well, I've got to check with the neighborhood association, or didn't do anything like that. It just got on. And that ant carried it all the way back across. And they both did the same thing. They felt every single millimeter of space. And then the two ants went back, and there were 4. The 4 became 8. The 8 became 16. The 16, 32, until there was some signal that went through the entire group, and they all stood up. Some picked up grains of sand. Some picked up the ant eggs. They all marched across. They put the ant eggs in that sea, and then they filled it in with grains of sand and left a little entrance, and you could just see this palpable relaxation. They were back to bumping into each other. You ever watched ants going, hey, how you doing? Great, the babies are safe, everything's great. And all of a sudden, everything changed. In 3 minutes, they faced what looked like an insoluble problem. And here was the formula. A simple act put into a system, because ants aren't real smart, but they did the same simple act over and over. A simple act put into a system can solve a sophisticated problem. And it hit me. You give enough ants enough time, they can take down Mount Everest. Enough ants, enough time. And that's when it hit me. When Jesus told the parable, he said, you know, we need this earth to be like the kingdom of heaven. We need to treat each other that way and love each other that way. And he said the kingdom of heaven is like, and you know the parable, it's like a mustard seed. It's the smallest of all seeds. But listen, when you plant it, then it becomes the largest of all the bushes, and all of the birds of the air make their nest in it. And what hit me about how we can literally change this world is that the smallest seed, think of the good friends you grew up with. Think of what that friendship and how you stay friends with those folks. I've stayed friends with people I grew up with here in Shreveport all my life and made new friends. Think of the power of friendship, how it changes us and what it means. Even though we mess up. I used to have a guy that said, preacher, I'm with you as long as you're right. Well, that's exactly when I don't need somebody. It's when I'm right. It's when I mess up. When I screw up is when I need a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And so think of the power of that, and it's the smallest of all seeds. But if we can put it into a system and begin to multiply friendship, it doesn't have to be deep friendship. It can be first just to know that we're connected. And then that can become a vision, literally, for the entire world. I spoke at a Bible study, by the way, through Secretary John Dalton, who grew up on Merrick Street. Aspiro was telling me he grew up on the 400 block, and Dalton grew up on the 300 block. And here's John Dalton, former Secretary of the Navy, and And John had the idea of taking this model and putting it on the ground in Washington, D.C., which we're doing. And I'm a member of their Bible study every Thursday, and they wanted me to bring the program on, the title was, What's Happening in Shreveport? Now I'm sitting up there and I'm going to tell you who's in the Bible study. The former president of the National Young Life Group. The former national president of Young Life. The former national president of the United Way. The former undersecretary, the former secretary of the Army, secretary of the Navy, and the national security advisor for President Reagan, a guy by the name of Bud McFarlane. They give me 30 minutes and I describe you and what's happening. Ordinary folks banded together for something extraordinary, committed to it. That we can change one another, but we can also, through caring and through love, we can help reach this world and we can change the world. At the end, John asked the former national security advisor to pray. And Bud McFarlane prayed this prayer. I want you to know what he prayed, because he prayed for you and he prayed for me. And here was his prayer. God, get us off our butts to help the people of Shreveport change this world. The National Security Advisor of the United States of America for President Reagan is praying for us. And I want you to know that we can do it. We can come together in such a way, thanks to Paige and Johnson and Joyce and Joanne and all of the group, you know, Ronnie, all of the folks that have helped make a difference in all of our lives and what this can do to make a difference for the world. And Paige has got and has called me to say, you know, if we can do this in Southern Trace, then it becomes an example for all. You don't have to be down and out, folks, to help, you know, to do something great. You can be up and out and help make things happen that are great. And we can show meaning to everybody around us. And I think if we can join the We Care team and put our hand to the plow and get every block connected, doesn't mean we got to be best friends. A brick only touches 6 other bricks in a building. Close, it's connected, but a brick is connected to every brick in the wall. And that's all we have to do, is do that. And I promise you, we are seeing things happen that are just astonishing. One final word, we've got 2 corporations coming here in July. And those corporations, I'm not gonna give you the name, I wish I could, but I just want you to pray for the corporations. But 2 national corporations are coming here in July for one reason. They want to look at the people of Shreveport and at Community Renewal, how we've taken what you're already doing. You're already caring for everybody. We're just connecting each other. We need your prayers, and we need you to not only do that, we need you to say, I'm in. The Secretary of the Army, the former Secretary of the Army, when we finished talking about Shreveport, that Bible study, looked around the table and said, I know every one of y'all here are hit on by 1,000 organizations. I know that, but I'm telling you, he said, and I said it last week, that we were very discerning in what we give, but now our resources are going to go to support Shreveport. That's somebody sitting up in D.C. And if they're saying that about us, we can say it about ourselves. We got something great here, and you know what it is? All you have to do is turn around and look at each other, and that's what it is. So God bless y'all. Thank you.